Hi everyone, it's Nick. Welcome back to my channel. Okay, in today's video, we are going to be talking about designing a home for humans. I feel like this should be pretty obvious, but in the world of interior design, it's not always. I think it's really important that when we're designing a space, we build them for human beings. And I know that seems crazy, but surprisingly, when you're in the world of social media and you see things like fashion trends and makeup trends and beauty trends and all this stuff fly by you all the time, it's really easy to remember that sometimes people aren't taking into consideration like the human form. Do you know what I mean? Like some of the fashion trends and stuff and the makeup trends just feel a little bit like it's giving Hunger Games capital. You know what I mean? Like they're a little bit out there for me. And the same is true for interior design. And so I thought, what does that mean to me to design a space for actual real life human beings? And let's talk about it. That's what we're gonna talk about in this video. So let's get going. Okay, so part of designing a space that is fit for humans is also designing off of your own lifestyle. And that leads me to today's sponsor, which is Factor. So I've been enjoying the sponsor of today's video, Factor, for a number of weeks now, and they offer really gorgeous ready to eat meals that are delivered right to your doorstep. And what I love about Factor meals is that they eliminate the hassle of planning, prepping, cooking, and cleaning up. And while I sometimes like to switch between a full meal kit, something like HelloFresh, which actually owns Factor, right now I found that the pre-made meals fit really well into my lifestyle because I have less time than ever. They've become my go-to when working from home, which for me is every single day. So if you're looking for an easy and tasty solution to your breakfast, lunch, or dinner meals, head to factor75.com or click the link below and use the code nicklewis50 to get 50% off your first Factor box and then 20% off your next month of orders. That's code nicklewis50 and go to factor75.com to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month of orders. Thank you, Factor, for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to designing a home for actual human beings where things actually fit your lifestyle, like Factor. Okay, first up on my list of designing a home for humans, this is the first thing that came to my mind, and that is gonna be things like scale and proportion. So this is largely gonna be around things like furniture pieces, but honestly kind of applies to everything in your space. Designing a space that actually takes into account the size and shape of how humans are. So that means things like getting a couch and end table so that you have appropriate clearances around your different furniture pieces so people can navigate them easily. Drawers should be able to be opened easily and not necessarily banging into each other and still have a space for a human to sort of walk past them. If you have a dining area, and mine is like a little bit on the tighter side, but just okay, a dining area should have an appropriate amount of clearance for people to be able to get into their chairs and out of their chairs comfortably will still be able to eat and have a conversation. Things like art should be hung at an appropriate height so that it makes sense for humans. You know, all these things make sense because they should fit the scale of the room that they're in and should be able to be sort of easily navigated by human beings, especially taking into account things like accessibility. So perhaps, you know, things like making sure that you have the right doorway clearances or hallway clearances for someone with a wheelchair, for example, or someone with mobility issues, right? Like being able to design spaces that have the appropriate clearances that make sense for humans to navigate. The other thing, when you're dealing with something like coffee tables or end tables or nightstands or whatever, make sure that they're at an appropriate height for a person to comfortably be able to reach for them and to be able to not like strain their neck having to use them, right? Making sure the TV is not hung so high or too low that it makes it difficult for a person to be able to watch easily. So many mistakes in interior design come down to people making decisions that are oftentimes driven by aesthetics or driven by not knowing what they're doing, and instead not designing for the real life human beings that actually live in the space. You know, we're different, but we're not that different. You know what I mean? Like we all like to be comfortable and we all like to use things that are kind of like appropriate for our size and scale. And I think that's really important to take into consideration when designing a space. So please make sure that if you're picking a sofa, make sure that the cushion height is going to be appropriate for most people that are going to be using it. If you have a sofa that is too low, it's going to be really difficult for people to get in and out of. But you know, something like a Togo sofa, it looks cute. Everyone who's like, it's cute when you're 21 because you can get in and out of these things fairly easily. But if you have, say, your mom comes over, your grandma, and she's like, you know, 70, she ain't gonna be sitting in your toga, or otherwise you're never, or Togo, sorry, the Togo, that's what it is oh, the Togo sofa, who cares anymore? You ain't getting her out of that thing, you know what I mean? She comes over, Grams comes over for a visit, she is stuck in there for life. So, you know, it's not that easy to get people out of it, and it's embarrassing to need a forklift and 3 individuals to hoist you out of a sofa. So be mindful of that. If you want something a little bit taller, a little bit stiffer, it's gonna be a lot easier to get in and out of, but it's also not gonna feel as comfy and squishy, right? So you're gonna have to sort of make a judgment call that is going to make sense for the humans that are going to live there and also visit. By the way, also bonus points, because you know, if you do want a loungy sofa, get different types of seating that are going to make sense for different types of people. Some things are really formal, some things are really casual, some things are easy to get in and out of, and some things are not. And so choosing different styles can make sense for different people, and people can self-select the sort of seating option that makes sense and is available to them. Also, bookcases, case goods, things in hallways, be mindful of the fact that, you know, really narrow ones, if you want to use a hallway space, because I know these can be really tricky, but you want to put a storage solution in there, like a shoe rack or, you know, someplace to put your coat or whatever, because it's kind of in the front hall closet, whatever, the entryway. Choosing one that doesn't have a whole lot of depth is going to be really great, because although it might necessarily limit some of your storage, it's going to mean that people don't have to shimmy to get through the hallway, right? Because they're able to kind of do it because, you know, you've picked one that is appropriate to be able to actually open for a wardrobe. Does that make sense? You know, I've seen so many of these where the depth is so huge that it just feels uncomfortable to walk through these hallways. So don't do that. Pick things that are appropriately sized for a real life adult human. That's not that hard. And here's just a golden rule, okay? It doesn't matter how cute it is. If it doesn't fit, it's not gonna work. Okay, next up on my list is just humans like to be comfortable, okay? So yes, we're choosing scale. We're mostly talking about size there, but now we're gonna be talking about comfort. This is choosing materials that are gonna be actually appropriate for people to feel comfortable in their home, right? So oftentimes I think people don't take comfort in mind when they're choosing pieces. You know, things like this very, very trendy sort of cheese grater bum chair that I sort of talk about sometimes here on the channel, right? These are not comfortable. You see this a lot in outdoor. They're not comfy. These are not things that make a lot of sense that people actually enjoy using. Humans should enjoy using the furniture pieces and enjoy being in their home or in somebody else's home. It should be a comfortable experience. So, you know, I'm gonna also say one of my other pet peeves, of course, is things like backless stools or the dreaded dining bench, right? They're not fun because they don't have back support. We want back support, okay? We all do, okay? We want a little bit of back support because it's just helpful. It's sort of, especially if you're sitting there for a long period of time, which is probably what you're doing if you're dealing with a dining area, right? This isn't an occasional stool that someone's popping in on while they're at, I don't know, like a stool at Foot Locker while they try on shoes. That's fine. You don't need a back there. But if it's a dining chair, you're gonna be there for a while. So you know what? Having a comfortable chair that you can actually use makes sense. So choose pieces that are actually comfortable and easy to use and with materials that you're actually gonna really enjoy using, right? Don't choose scratchy towels or scratchy bedding that's really uncomfortable just because it's in a guest room and you're like, well, they can deal. You know what? Choose pieces that are actually comfortable to use, that are beautiful, and you can actually, you know, enjoy feeling them and enjoy touching them because you're gonna be sleeping there for 8 hours a day, so you should really enjoy it. Choose materials that make sense, that are actually super gorgeous and comfortable and you're able to use and feel good in. Okay, next up, designing a home for humans. And this is a bit of a realistic one, okay? And that is taking into account things like maintenance, taking into account how easy it is to necessarily use, because I think that humans like to choose oftentimes the path of least resistance. Let's call it as it is, right? We're all kind of lazy at the end of the day, and humans, and I think that's like built into us as humans, right? Like, let's get the most bang for our buck. We want that ROI. I want to know that if I'm going to be spending the time, I want to know that it's going to actually be worth it. And some of the pieces that are out there in design are just not worth it. We're looking at you, Cloud Sofa, right? So the Cloud Sofa, any of these feather down sofas that are very popular, very trendy, these tend to be really annoying to have to fluff all the time, because you might not know this. When you go to Restoration Hardware, you watch. You go to Restoration Hardware, you go sit in that Cloud Sofa, the nice little person with the clipboard, she's gonna be walking around, how are you doing? How's your day? How are things? Do you want a San Pellegrino? I don't know, whatever they do at our age, right? They're gonna do all that, and then you're gonna get up off that sofa and you watch. That person is gonna go over and they are gonna do this. They're gonna flip that Cloud Sofa, they're gonna fluff it up because it has to look perfect, which is great in a showroom, but it's not real life. And so humans, I think, like to choose pieces that are actually gonna wear easily. Things like performance fabrics that, you know, if you spill on them, it's not gonna cause this like massive stain that's gonna be really like awful to deal with. Things that have like attract water stains, like stainless steel countertops or black marble countertops, or maybe even marble in general as a material choice, right? If you're not gonna use some sort of sealer or whatever, it just might not be the material choice that you might need because it's just not worth the maintenance. Now, if you're like me and you just love marble countertops, then maybe you just put up with it. But for most people, it's just not gonna make sense. So choosing things that actually are easy to maintain, and functionally you're actually gonna be able to use them regularly, use them how you want to use them, because I also tend to buy really quality stuff, but I'm also not super precious with my stuff because I don't wanna sit and babysit my countertops forever because I have other priorities going on in life, okay? So designing really with that path of least resistance in mind. Also with organization. I did an organization video before that you might wanna check out. You know, one of the things I talk about is work with the habits that you already have, right? So if you come in and you dump your umbrella and you dump your keys and you dump your wallet, whatever, in the entryway, put a closed door cabinet system or a catch-all or something really cool or something that you like that's actually going to be there and fit your lifestyle. A lot of times people just go in and they design for the life they want because they think they're gonna have everything organized and they're gonna be super, super perfect. And the reality is that lasts about 2 weeks. You know what I mean? It's like when my mom we used to get a new couch, like back when I was a kid, we had a new couch, living room set, it was very cute, whatever. And then my mom was like, no eating in the living room, no eating in the living room, ever, ever, ever. And then that probably lasted about like 2 or 3 months. And then she would allow it sometimes. And before you know it, we were sitting there eating entire meals. Like, you know what I mean? Like you might last a little bit, but the truth is, you know, most people are gonna fall off the wagon unless it sort of fits your lifestyle. So actually design with that in mind, with your own comfort in mind. Also, I will say, choosing materials that are appropriate for the room that they're in. So this isn't just about who you are, this is just about how everybody is, okay? So, you know, I've mentioned it before a bunch of times. Carpets in bathrooms. I know we're not doing it anymore. I know it's like super dated, I get it, but like, let's just be real. That is not the appropriate material choice for that room, obviously, okay? But there's some less obvious ones that we see that are really trendy right now. Things like a lot of wood that is like untreated or like wood that is just not appropriate for a shower setting, for moisture or whatever. Some wood species can be fine, some wood species are not. You know, hardwood flooring, engineered hardwood might not make a lot of sense in a bathroom, right? So you gotta talk to the appropriate sort of vendors to make sure that you're using the right materials that are good for the use case that you have in mind, right? Tile countertops in the kitchen, see them all the time. Are they trendy? Yes, kind of. Yes, for sure. I see them all the time. Are they appropriate though when you're dealing with grout and you're dealing with uneven surfaces that come with tiling? Probably not a great idea, right? So choosing pieces that are gonna make sense for your lifestyle and are gonna be comfortable and use cases appropriate for what they're supposed to be. That's what we're talking about here. Okay, next up is going to be designing with a mood in mind. So human beings are affected by the space that they're in, okay? That's just factually, that's just true, okay? And people are just like, but design doesn't matter, I don't care about design, blah, 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 blah. Okay, here's this image, okay? How does this make you feel, okay? And now, how does this room make you feel, right? Do they make you feel something different? They're both spaces. If design doesn't matter, why don't you just live in a jail cell, you know? If design doesn't matter, then who cares? They're the same thing. They're not the same thing. It affects your mood, right? We all really should know that. And things like lighting temperature matter when it comes to affecting your mood. Design style, you know, matters when it comes to affecting your mood. So really be conscious of what the mood you're trying to create in your space. And we all want different moods in our space, you know? Like some people, like did you see, like RuPaul has an Architectural Digest tour. That place is glamorous, it's Hollywood Regency, it's what, but it's not, to me, particularly like down home cozy, right? That's not the vibe that Ru is trying to create in the home. It's about the mood that you're trying to create. And we're all allowed to like different spaces. That's kind of what's really cool about design. You get to design something that's unique and personal to yourself that you get to invite people into. And that's really what is kind of beautiful about designing your own space. So design something that is appropriate to your mood and the mood that you're trying to create and work from there. So for example, if you want like a really light and bright sort of office, you want something really energizing, then choose something like this. And if you want something that's a little bit more moody and a little bit sexy, then try something like this. And if maybe you wanted to have something sort of calming and relaxing, you might try a space like this. So you can see 3 very different spaces, 3 very different moods. Which one do you want to create in your home? Okay, and then next up on my list is going to be usefulness, or really like how functional are the pieces in your home. And this, again, remember we're designing for humans. Remember that's what you are, probably, if you're watching this video. So you're a human, right? So humans like things, and they also like things that are really functional and really useful. And that's what we have in our homes all the time. We have really functional pieces that we use every day, whether it's the remote, whether it's glassware, whether it's bedding, right? Whether it's towels, but these things all are functional. They have a use in our home, and that's a really great thing. But I think we should really sometimes take a really edited sort of look at our space and really think, does this serve me, right? Let's Marie Kondo this out of here. And I will say that being pretty is providing some utility, right? So maybe as an unpopular opinion to some that are like these harsh minimalists that are just like, here's my coffee table, which is a piece of plywood that I got, you know, fine. But like to me, I look at it as if it's beautiful and you like to look at it, that's fine. That is useful to you, right? You might not necessarily use it every day, but it's providing some sort of function because you like looking at it. So I think that's okay. Now, from within there though, there's going to be a bunch of pieces that are really popular, that are trendy, especially in the world of technology, that are not useful, in my opinion, probably not useful. And you can disagree, feel free, but maybe you might want to edit those out of your life, right? So a good example of this for me is like the Samsung's never gonna like sponsor me, you guys. They hate me, I'm pretty sure over there. Yeah, okay, like Samsung's watching me. Anyway, Samsung TV inside the fridge, right? I hate this one. I'm sorry, I do. And I know they're very popular. I see them at Costco all the time. People are oohing and eyeing all over these things. I get it. Like, I get the use case for them, kinda, but I also think they're dumb because I don't think they're actually particularly functional. I don't think. You can disagree. Maybe you're super organized. Maybe you got you and your 17 children and you guys are all sitting there putting all your little schedules on there on the little central point there in your fridge. Listen, I don't think these are particularly useful. I don't think they're fun. I don't like them. I will say that I one time heard a story about a person, it's probably online, so it's probably not true that I heard this, but where a guy like next door was putting on some spicy films and he used Bluetooth and connected to a woman's Samsung fridge, which to me, like that's my type of humor. That's hilarious. Like that's funny. But apart from making me laugh, I don't really get what the purpose of these things really are. So I don't like them. I don't find them particularly functional. I think they're kind of stupid. I also think they're aesthetically not great. Because again, a fridge, like I like personally a paneled fridge myself. A stainless steel one can be fine as well, totally fine. But I don't think we need to add more electronics into these things. So to me, that's not useful. So if I had one, I would never buy one. But if I did, I might want to be like, probably not for me. Do you know what I mean? I think it's really important for us to take an edited look at our spaces and edit out the things that are not actually that functional, because sometimes these pieces can work against you. And that's even worse, right? Like, that way they're not only are they maybe ugly, but they're also like not particularly functional all the time. You know, I think like the whole smart home thing, I think it's really interesting. It's kind of funny how they ebb and flow. I'm not gonna say hey A or hey G because I like activate 100,000 of them around the world and I don't wanna do that. But like those things might be useful, they might not be. And I think take a second look at some of these tech solutions that are out there and think, is this actually appropriate for me? Is this functional? Is this useful? Do I actually really need this? Because so many interior design trends, so many of them, this image, this mirage of usefulness, and in fact, they're just clutter. So that's it for me for today, guys. I hope you really enjoyed this video. I'm gonna link here to my video on organization because if you're a person that likes designing homes for humans, I think you might actually enjoy my organization video because I'm not an organized person necessarily, which makes me the perfect person to talk about organization because again, path of least resistance. So take a look at that video and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks, bye.